Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of Hornets Daily, your one-stop shop for all things Charlotte Hornets. As always, represented by the good people over at FanArc, and I'm your host, Vance Ballard, but you already know you can call me VB. I want to thank everybody for joining us out there, watching along with us. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. You know how much we enjoy seeing what you guys think about what's going on the show as we continue to grow and build this Hornets Daily family here on the program. Now, we've got a few things on the docket for today. It's a slower period in the NBA, but there is still some buzz going on down in the Queen City. Charlotte has quite a few big games on their schedule this season. There's a chance for some real marquee wins, and one writer thinks there are 5 games in particular. We'll take a look at some of those today on the show. There's a lot of potential trade targets floating around for the Hornets. Not a full visit to the rumor mill per se, but there are some in-season trade targets that one writer thinks the Hornets should take a look at. We'll discuss those as well. What exactly would a Colin Sexton extension look like? You guys know I've gone to bat for him as well this summer. What would it look like to keep him around in Charlotte? We're going to talk about that. And then we'll wrap things up today with a very interesting question that I've seen floating around out there. Who's going to take the last shot for the Hornets? We'll discuss that to wrap the program up today. Now, as you know, we do not beat around the bush here. We like to dive headfirst straight into the program, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. Now, we know that Charlotte only has 3 nationally televised games this year, just 3 chances to get seen by the world, per se, if you will. And one of those games is technically not even a nationally televised game. It's on Prime, so it'll be streaming, but with the amount of people that have that, it pretty much counts as a TV game. So that's 3 nationally televised games for the Hornets. Not a lot of opportunities to show the improvement that I think the Hornets are going to make. Not a lot of opportunities to put a whole lot of eyeballs on the team. But there are still some interesting games. There are still some chances for some big wins to kind of get themselves on the radar. If you are the Hornets, Colin Keene over at Sports Illustrated thinks there's 5 games in particular that the Hornets could use to make a statement victories or capture those marquee wins this season. We're going to talk about all 5 of them eventually, but it is something we're going to break down throughout the rest of the week. We'll talk about the first 2 today, and then we'll continue on throughout the rest of the week. Like I said, the first one of the what I like to call put people on notice games comes early in the season. Game 10, as a matter of fact, on November the 10th, Charlotte sees the Lakers coming to town. Now, we know what that means. They bring LeBron James and Luka Doncic, so we know the star power that comes with the Los Angeles Lakers. No matter where they go, who they're playing, Laker games draw attention, so there will be this game will be talked about. This game will have meaning to it, no matter the result. And if the Hornets can come away with a win, it would be a big early start to the season. It would kind of wake people up and show that they are a little more serious than the national media thinks they are about this rebuild, about this improving in the long run. Again, even though it would just be Game 10, the Hornets could show people that this is a very different season. This would be a huge early win. As I said, moving forward to trying to make that play-in run or playoff spot as the Hornets look to do this season. Now, Game 2, the second game that Keene lists is just 5 days later on November the 15th. The Hornets get a visit from the defending NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder. That is going to be a very interesting game. We know they play in in Charleston. I'm sorry, they're the Charleston game. Memphis is the Greensboro game. We know that the Thunder play the Hornets in the preseason in Charleston, but that won't have nearly as much meaning as the game on November the 15th in Charlotte. It's going to be an uphill task, obviously, for the Hornets. We know that the Thunder are the defending champs, and they're returning a lot of guys. They're healthy as a team. They're young, so that roster is still very much a top-tier NBA roster. But it is going to be a very interesting early test for the Hornets if they could find some way to take both of these games at home early, or at least maybe not win them, but at least have good, strong showings, not get blown out per se. Maybe win one of 2, split them, or if they could find a way to get both wins early in the season, that would really put themselves kind of on the radar at least at that point in the season, and show that this is a different Hornets team than last year for sure, and that they have made the right moves in the offseason to continue to get better. The Thunder, as we know, the Thunder know themselves that they'll be getting the absolute best from every single opponent, no matter what, no matter who it is on the other side of the floor. They're going to get the other team's absolute best night in and night out, and playing in Charlotte will be no different from that. If the defending champs do decide to maybe relax a little bit, sleep on the Hornets, take the night, I don't want to say take the night off, but you understand what I'm saying. If they take that game a little less seriously than they should, or underestimate Charlotte, then absolutely the Hornets could come away with another signature win early in the season. Now, as I mentioned, we'll continue to take a look at the rest of the 5 games from Keene throughout this week as the show progresses, but we're just going to talk about those first 2 today. Really tough uphill battles for the Hornets in terms of playing the Lakers and the Thunder just 5 days apart, but it is a good thing both of those games will take place in Charlotte at home, so we'll have the Hornets will have that advantage. And then again, like I say, if they could come away with 1 or 2 wins out of those games, that'll really put themselves moving in the right direction going into the rest of the season. Now, we talked about it a little in the beginning of the show. It's not a full visit to the rumor mill today, but there are some potential trade targets floating around attached to the Hornets' name. Nathaniel Holloway over at Athlon Sports has put together 3 potential in-season trade targets that the Hornets could go after, again, in-season before the deadline this year. He didn't fully mock up these trades, saying who the Hornets should send out for where. That's why, of course, it's not a full rumor mill experience today. We only have just the targets that the Hornets could potentially look at. But if they do choose to try and upgrade their roster even further than they already have during the season before the deadline, things like that, Holloway thinks the 3 potential targets that the Hornets could go after are Walker Kessler, Anthony Simmons, and Mitchell Robinson. Now, we've heard Mitchell Robinson's name in the rumor mill attached to the Hornets a couple times this summer, earlier back in the summer, but the Knicks didn't really seem to be shopping him around. But that could change going into the season. And honestly, 2 out of 3 of those names make a lot of sense to me, Mitchell Robinson and Walker Kessler being those 2. I'll get to Anthony Simmons in just a minute. But Kessler and Robinson, both of these big men, they'd instantly change the dynamic of the Hornets. They would instantly make Charlotte better at that position. Despite what I've said, I think the Hornets are going to be fine. These guys, no doubt, would obviously be upgrades and make the Hornets better. Robinson is fine, maybe a little bit more than fine offensively, not a real jump shooting threat or anything like that, but he can score from the inside. But he's an absolute force in the paint on defense. That cannot be denied. And adding a guy like him next to Moussa Diabate on the floor would really make it tough for wouldn't leave a lot of rebounds left for the other team. Those 2 guys are very high-level rebounders in the NBA. Diabate's only getting better, and we know what Mitchell Robinson can do, crashing the glass, defending inside, and scoring inside as well. He does scare me a little bit with his injury history. Robinson has a tumultuous injury history, and the Hornets really can't afford to have someone else like that on their roster. We know about the injury troubles that Charlotte goes through enough as it is. Still waiting to be seen if we'll have another one with LaMelo, but so that could potentially be a drawback for Robinson, as his injury history is a little bit troublesome. Now, Walker Kessler is not the defensive presence that Robinson is, but he's no slouch on that end of the floor, and he's better offensively than Mitchell Robinson. He can shoot a little bit more. He can stretch the floor a little wider. He's a little quicker and maybe a little more athletic as well. He'd be an offensive upgrade over everything that the Hornets currently have. And again, he is a solid rebounder as well. Wouldn't be a problem for him in the paint to crash the glass and get some boards. Again, him and Moussa Diabate would be an issue rebounding for any team as well. The biggest fear with Kessler is that Utah's asking price might be a little bit too high. That's my biggest fear with him anyway, especially after the Colin Sexton trade. The Jazz probably aren't keen on making another move with the Hornets unless they get an abundance in return for Walker Kessler. So that may be a hang up there. The asking price for Kessler might be a little bit too high. Now, Anthony Simmons was the third name mentioned there. He does not make any sense to me. This one I disagree with the Hornets. I don't think they really need to go after a guy like him. They don't need any more guards on that roster. Now, I know there's still some cuts to be made, probably going to be one less guard, maybe two on the roster after those cuts, but they're still going to be very deep at the 1 and the 2 position guys that can play both of those positions, and so I don't really see a need for an Anthony Simmons at the trade deadline or to be acquired during the season. That's the one of the 3 names that doesn't make the most sense to me. And one of the reasons that they don't need that Charlotte doesn't need another guard is the addition of Colin Sexton in the offseason. I've said since the day he was added, pretty much you guys have heard me say it over and over again, I don't think this is a one-year relationship as much as the media may, or the rest, or some writers or experts out there may think that it is just a one-year relationship. The Hornets are going to let Colin Sexton's contract expire and then hit free agency. I don't tend to agree with that. I think that Colin Sexton is going to have a fantastic year with the Hornets. I think he's going to shine, and he already seems to being getting comfortable, enjoying his time in Charlotte. So I think he's going to almost force the Hornets to keep him around, but with his play on the court, not in any dramatic way or anything like that. I think how good he's going to be, how helpful, how much he impacts this team is going to force the Hornets' hand to kind of keep him around. If that is the case, what does a Colin Sexton extension look like? We know he's currently on the last of a $19 million deal. I believe the contract was 4 years, 72, somewhere in there was the actual contract, but he is making $19 million this year, and honestly, that would probably be a reasonable number to re-sign him at going forwards. The issue is he might not agree with that, and some other guys similar to him or at his position have gotten larger deals. If he continues his big numbers from last year, like if he upticks his 18 points per game scoring, if he continues to shoot over 40% from beyond the arc, then he could legitimately argue for a pay raise, and I don't think anyone would really blame him for that. Now, we did see Alex Caruso sign a 4-year, $80 million deal, and somewhere along those lines could probably make sense for Colin Sexton too. You can compare those two guys how you want. That's not really what I'm doing here, just looking more at the contract and the market for the position that Sexton plays. So for somewhere in that $20 million range, I think would make sense for Colin Sexton. If he wants to argue for more, that of course would be up to him, but I think that would be probably the regular market value elsewhere as well. Now, take a lot of moving parts, probably a little more money than expected to sign Colin Sexton. I don't think they'll be able to get him back for $17 million or even the $19 he's making now, but I do think it's going to be a big year for Colin, and I think it's going to be in the Hornets' best interest to work out an extension to re-sign him at the end of this year, because I think not only this season, but he is still young enough to be a big part of this rebuild of the Hornets core that they're trying to build around, and Colin Sexton could really help be one of the anchors of that going forward. So I do think an extension for him is not only on the table, but is the smart move for the Hornets going forward. Part of the reason it could be so important may very well be he's one of the guys with the ball in his hand at the end of the game. He's now certainly been added to the list of names that could potentially be the answer to the question, who is taking the last shot in Charlotte? Again, when we look ahead to this season, it's pretty consensus that the Hornets will be led by LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Colin Sexton. Those are the 3 biggest offensive threats that we're aware of. Obviously, the rookies could come in. Con Knipple could do something special on that end of the floor. But Miles Bridges could go back to his 2021 self in terms of shooting from distance and keep his average up around 20 points. That's possible as well. But the main 3 leaders on that team are going to be LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Colin Sexton. Again, I mentioned it, Miles Bridges may have a few big nights, could potentially have something like the Spurs game where he was a recipient of a pass from LaMelo Ball to hit a game-winning 3, but I don't think he's going to be considered nightly one of the guys to take the final shots. Again, I'm not necessarily sure that there is a wrong answer with any of the 3 that we mentioned, Ball, Miller, or Sexton. I know none of those 3 guys would hesitate to take the last shot based on the style of player that they are. But they're not they're not Kobe Bryant by any means, so I don't have that type of confidence in the three of them. I'm not trying to talk them up as lethal killers at the end of the game, but they have shown in their careers flashes of the ice in the veins situation, to where if it does come down to one of those three guys having the ball in their hand at the last second, again, I don't think the Hornets could go wrong with any of them doing that. Now, with all of that said, the most likely option, of course, is LaMelo Ball. He'll probably already have the ball in his hands, and as we know, I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but as we know, he's never seen a shot that he wasn't open to take. We also know he can make some of those crazy shots. He regularly shoots what look like they could potentially be buzzer-beating heaves from in just the middle of the possession. His one-legged running three-pointers or his wild, crazy fadeaway shots that he does sometimes, those look like they could, if you weren't in the game in context, look like they could just be a last-second shot. So he's not hesitant to take them at all. If not LaMelo, I think Brandon Miller is probably the next guy. I know, no disrespect to Colin Sexton, but Brandon Miller is my number 2 option here, who I would be second likely to give the last shot of the game to, as he's been in his time when he's been on the floor, he's been consistent. He's a proven shooter, and he knows how to create space and get to his spots and create his own shot. So I think at the end of a game in a one-on-one isolation situation, Brandon Miller could be a guy taking that shot as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the Spurs game last year, they could the new roster could allow for some extra spacing, guys like Miller, Ball, or even Sexton to drive and put the defense, pay more attention to them, kick out to an open shooter, as I mentioned, like the Spurs game last year, where LaMelo kicked it out to Miles Bridges for the game-winning 3. Obviously, the smart money here is on LaMelo taking the last shot, as he'll probably be the one to have the ball in his hands. We know that he does not shy away from those moments at all, so he will more than likely be the guy to do it. But it's not a bad thing at all that Charlotte has options, that there is even a question who should take the last shot. That puts you in a better spot than the Hornets have been for quite some time. Honestly, there wouldn't have been this question being asked for the last few years. It would only be LaMelo Ball. And now in the last couple of years, Brandon Miller has added a name to that question. And now Colin Sexton, maybe Con Knippel, works his way into being a guy who's kind of got that clutch feel, that clutch gene to him at the end of a game. Again, options are a very good thing. It means the Hornets are moving in the right direction. And that is what we want to see. That's what we've heard they're going to do all summer, and now it's almost time to start putting that to proof on the court. Preseason is on the way, training camp not far, regular season is knocking on the door, so it's almost basketball time, and it will be very fun to watch all of these things unfold, especially who it comes down to being that guy taking the last shot for the Hornets. That's going to do it for the program today. As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like and a comment down in the comment section. Let me know who you think should be taking that last shot. What do you guys think about those potential trade targets that we talked about earlier in the show? Let me know what you think about what's going on the program. As always, once again, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for a new episode of Hornets Daily.